the stubby. Today I'm reviewing this 2006 NC Miata. I personally am not a huge fan of the NC because it looks like a boat. It is Miata's version of a land yacht, land boat, whatever they're called. It looks like it has a wide body kit on it. That's just how Mazda wanted it to look, like a boat. As you guys know, I'm a little bit biased. I do have a Miata myself, but it is an NA. That's the only Miata I personally like because of the pop-ups and just the way it looks, the lines on it. I mean, it can make any paint look great. Where the boat, no matter how bad your paint looks, it just always looks like a boat. No matter what color it is, it's not going to make it look any more narrow or more edgy. None of those, because you're driving a land yacht. It's essentially what you're driving. Even though it may not look the best or the prettiest, it still is a Miata. It still's got that Miata power behind it, pushing it through the turns and accelerating through the straights. The Miata is much better in the turns compared to straights on any track that I've seen, but it's a Miata, I mean, race car. Anywho, the NC I feel like is exactly what people always describe it. It's a hairdresser car, it's a teacher car, it's a fun daily driver for someone who, you know, wants to have a little bit fun on taking a street corner, but it's not made for its looks or even what the motor is in it right now. It's got a 2-liter in it, and for me, the NC just doesn't hit the mark. You know, it's a great daily driver. It's perfect for daily driving if that's all you care for. I personally look at the performance of a car, you know, on a racetrack because that's what I care for. It is a great alternative for, you know, an in-between daily and race car. It's not quite a race car, it's not quite fully a daily. It's right in that in-between mark because it still is a Miata after everything. The great thing that Mazda did was keeping an open mind with the NC Miata. They made sure to hit all of their marks, you know, even though it's a tiny convertible car, it still has a huge trunk. It still has a decent interior that's nice and big. It can take two girthy, you know, grown men to two tiny little hairdressers. This NC, in my mind, I can only use it as a daily. It's got that comfortability. It looks like it's meant for, you know, streets, not necessarily for the track. And I'm not saying it's not up to par. It won't be capable of performing on track. It will. It is still, again, a Miata. Just a big, giant car that's meant to be a little tiny car, a little tiny shoebox car. And instead they came out with this. For a short person like me, I am 5'1.5", you know, Mazda made sure that the seat goes all the way forward. However, with clutch all the way down, my knee is still barely bent, so if I got into a really bad front-end car accident, there goes my leg! My leg! I may have some decent leg room, but my knee is actually touching the dash right now when it's relaxed. So, even though I'm small and tiny, it's pretty cramped in here. The cool thing that Mazda did is that they made it accessible for someone who's really small to someone who's really big. I've seen 6'4" dudes, you know, 200, 300 pounds get out of a Miata. It might not look the most comfortable, but they're capable of fitting in it. The cool thing that Mazda kept was this movable steering wheel. It's adjustable for someone who's tiny like me or someone who's a little bit taller. Plus, there's so much headspace. For me, there's probably about, you know, 4 or 5 inches, maybe more. For Brandon, he's 5'7", it actually leaves quite a few inches for him. You're not worried about touching the top, and especially if you use this as a track car, your helmet you don't have to worry about hitting because there's just so much gaping space, even though it's such a tiny little car. So this is the seat all the way forward. This is the seat all the way back. Look at how much space I have between me and the steering wheel. They really thought it through when they were making this car. You know, who's going to be driving this car? Who do we want driving this car? People from 6'4" to 5'1.5". In the Miata, everything is right within your reach. You know, everything is right there. It's in your face. It's not too hard to grab onto. For someone with short little arms, it's great. It's nice. However, even though I'm so small, I hate that everything is right in my face. I can't stand it because it makes it feel more compact. And now I understand, it's a small car. What else was Mazda gonna do? What else could they have done? They fit as much as they could. They packed it full with as much stuff as you could possibly think or need. So obviously it's gotta be in your face. It's gotta be right there because there's nowhere else to put it. I personally don't really like the tight, packed in car. There's just a lot going on. As far as the windshield, there's not very much space in between the steering wheel and the actual windshield itself. I mean, the viewing point, I mean. And especially with this little sun visor, there really isn't much space, 4 inches if that, to actually see over the steering wheel while you're driving. So Mazda didn't really think that through. I honestly would have just gotten rid of the sun visors and not even put them in, my personal opinion, because even when they're down, they're still not the greatest. They have this mirror on here. Doesn't really matter because it's way too high up. Plus, I know for a fact that the hinges on these mirrors break, which is why the passenger one is just flopping around. They break non-stop. It's just a normal, known thing in a Miata. If you buy a newer NC model like this, you know that for a fact one of these are going to be broken. It's just a given. So Mazda didn't really plan that through. Great thing that Mazda did is that they put everything, again, within arm's reach. Your steering wheel, it has your radio control, it's got your cruise control, it's got everything that you need right here. All you do is use your thumbs and can control half of what this car can do. I will say, however, this parking brake I could do without. I hate the position they put it in. I hate that it's on the other side, it's on the passenger side, and you have to reach over so far and yank it. It's just so awkward. It makes you manipulate your body so awkwardly just to be able to set your parking brake, and I feel like it should be easier than that. I personally would have chosen to put the e-brake right here, right next to the center console, but just on the driver's side instead. And now I know it's a little cramped right there, that's probably why they didn't put it there, but I don't know, reshape the center console, make it work. Otherwise, you've got this awkward e-brake pull. It's just not fun. The really good thing that Mazda did is they put 4 cup holders in the NC Miata. 4 cup holders! That's 4 more than my wagon has. So they thought that part through. However, the door cup holders can only really fit a soda can and or a cup that's, one shape, meaning it doesn't expand when it gets to the top part. It's just one solid shape. Not many fast food restaurants do that anymore. So, unfortunately, since we've owned this Miata, I have never used the cup holders in the door. Now, they do have the other 2 cup holders behind the shift knob. Let me tell you how annoying that is. I can't stand it. I don't know who at Mazda said, let's put those cup holders there. Because when you're trying to shift with cups in those cup holders, it's damn near impossible. I mean, you have to practically break your wrist just to be able to get to the shift knob. It's not fun. I will say, and this is just personal opinion, I could care less about a soft top. I would have only offered a Miata with a hard top. No matter how well sealed you have it, windows up, everything, all you can hear is constant road noise, wind sounds, just any and everything you can imagine while you're on the road, just going through there. So no matter how loud you have the radio, you still have this constant wind sound or someone's brakes next to you. It's just constantly there because it's a soft top. It's not sound deadening, It's gonna have sound come through. And I personally could care less about a soft top. I'm not a fan of a convertible myself. And I know that's part of, Mazda's Miata whole thing was convertibles and having a convertible fun daily/race car. But just keep with the hard tops. It's the way I would go. I will say, one annoying thing Mazda also did was they put the trunk release next to the hood release. It's a little bit of an annoyance, and I know it's not that much of an annoyance, especially because they made sure that the trunk release and the hood release were 2 different actions. One's a button, one's a latch, one's a pulling action. You'd think you'd be able to distinguish between the 2. But when you're in a hurry, car's on fire, you need to pop the hood really quick, why would you put them both in the same area? That's my argument. No matter how distinctive they are, why both in the same spot? Of all places. I prefer the NA Miata because it's got the trunk release behind the center console. Which, for the NC, all they put back there was the gas release, the gas door release. Kind of cool, kind of annoying. Oh well. I will say this little compartment is pretty cool. It's a little bit of a storage area. It's not super big. It's also got, I think this is for, I don't know, insurance and stuff. But this is the gas release I was talking about. It's kind of cool, but when you're sitting in the driver's seat, especially that far forward, you have to do almost a full 180, you know, break your spine to release your gas door. Cool concept, probably not as well thought out as they thought. The other compartment they have, though, is behind the driver's seat. I believe there's one behind the passenger seat as well, but this is pretty spacious too. However, this little compartment that most people probably don't even know about, because we didn't know until we moved the seat all the way forward, it's almost useless. I mean, what are you going to put back there that's not needed, you know? I don't drive around with just random stuff behind my seat all the time. What's the whole point? I'm also not a huge fan of the AC vents. They look cool, they always break, you almost can never find them unbroken, and on occasion, this one doesn't even work. On occasion, this little button works and the flaps will come up so it can close off the vent, but as you can see, they usually don't. So, another issue that Mazda didn't really think through. They put these cool little cargo net things as well, you know, they're stretchy and whatever, but again, what's the point? What are you gonna put there? I can't think of anything to put in this little cargo area space because it's going into the passenger leg area. And I know it's small, it's meant for small things, but what? What would you put there? I don't know. Mazda was just trying to think of more areas to store things, which I understand, but it comes to a point like, they're just trying too hard. Again, here's those door cup holders. So small. I mean, it's not even as big as my hand. It really can only fit a really small drink. And because of this door panel kind of curving up, the drink can only be so high. Really only meant for soda cans, which I don't know about you guys. I don't soda cans often, and I also don't take them in my car. They splash everywhere. So, again, another useless item. I can't tell you guys how many NCs that I've been in that have this really bad textured armrest. It's always crunchy and squishy. It's never hard how I think it should be. Listen to the crunch. Again, useless. Just put a hard piece of plastic there. Then you wouldn't be all crunchy. No one likes crunch. I don't know about you guys, but it no longer looks mean. An NA Miata, just the way that they made the front of it looks mean, looks, you know, or happy at least. This just kind of looks derp. I'm not a huge fan of this weird nose dip that they did for the hood. I'm not even entirely sure that it was even needed. You know, normally that's space or whatever, but I think they purely did it for looks. It's another useless thing. Why? Why, Mazda? Why? I don't know about you guys, but those taillights are not it. When you do maybe like a red see-through or translucent, you know, paint over it or something, I can't stand the way that the taillights look, how they did them factory. They just look weird. You can see this taillight's blacked out. Wasn't our doing, it's a previous owner. And even though it's blacked out and kind of stupid, it looks much better than the stock just nothing. That just kind of looks like something that left it undone or something. Like it's an unfinished product. Also, say hi to Gary. The trunk space is pretty big for a convertible, you know, two-seater car. You can fit quite a bit in here. Actually, we normally run this car to the grocery store, so it can fit a lot in here for being such a tiny little car. Overall, just looking at the Miata, looks pretty sporty, you know, performance-y, whatever you want to call it, but I just can't help but see the boatness in it. With that weird wide body fender thing you want to call that, just looks like a boat to me. Like, why would you want that on a car? Why would you want to have a wide body kit, practically, from factory? It's not what they meant to do. I don't think they meant it to look like that, but that's all I see. Alright. On to the driving portion of this review. Good thing is that the seat goes all the way forward, so I can put the clutch all the way down. And when the e-brake is all the way up, it's not exactly easy for me to release. But let's see how she drives. So, bad thing is the B-pillars, or the soft top, is a bit of a blind spot for me. You guys can see right here, it's actually bigger than my head. Most things are. But cool thing is that it's got an adjustable steering wheel. I have to have it all the way down, that way I can properly see over the dash and the steering wheel. A-pillar is a tiny bit of a blind spot as well, especially because it's literally within touching distance for me right here. So that's unfortunate. As well as, of course, you guys know in the Miatas, the back window isn't the greatest because it's not huge. It's not a huge back window. So viewing point on that isn't too great. I don't like the fact that my rear view mirrors are literally right here. You know, they're right next to me. So it's kind of hard to gauge how to manipulate them so you can see better. Overall, it's a really smooth ride. It's not like you're sailing the ocean, even though it is a boat. It's a decent, you know, sturdy ride, and you're not jumping all over the place. But we'll see more when I go over the railroad tracks. It shifts really smoothly, and the shape of the shift knob too takes up your hand really nicely. Like it's a nice gripping point. And it is the OEM shift knob, so good on Mazda. One thing I love about this car, it's got cruise control. None of my personal vehicles have cruise control. This is nice. You set your speed, you coast. The nice thing about the Miata is the cluster is literally, all I have to do is look down and it's right there. It's very legible. You can read everything with that white lettering on the black. The AC controls and the radio controls, you know, I don't really even have to look to feel where I'm touching, because everything just has a very distinctive feel to it, distinctive touch to it. You know when you're touching the AC knobs, you know when you're touching the radio knob, just everything's very distinctive. I know one of the major bad things, especially for the NCs that I have seen, is that they've got massive body roll. I mean, the body, it just, you know, it kind of looks like, when you're spectating that, watching a Miata with that body roll, it kind of looks like the chassis is being separated from the frame and it's just holding on by a thread, and then you pull it back and it lands back on, it clicks into place almost, like a Lego or something. I could do without the body roll. When you're driving too, especially, it feels like, you know, oh my god, I'm going opposite of the car, when really you're not, it's just the body roll of the car. It downshifts nicely. No, very rarely do I have to use the brakes until I'm completely coming to a stop in the Miata, because it just downshifts ever so nicely. Part of me likes the fact that everything's within reaching distance, but another part of me doesn't like that fact. It's too close. It's too small. So you guys saw there was a little bit of a lifting point on the railroad tracks. I did, you know, my butt lifted a little bit, my head didn't really get close to the roof though, not like all my other cars. So it takes over those railroad tracks really nicely. The shocks essentially are doing their job in this car. It takes that absorption away from you, and it's taking that oomph away from you feeling that, which is what shocks are essentially supposed to do. And in this Miata, they are actually the OEM shocks, so another thumbs up for Mazda on that. I will say I would like the steering wheel to be a different material, because it weathers so quickly and it just comes off in pieces. I mean, the stitching comes undone, and besides obviously a sun visor, which would really just prolong the time before it ends up like this. Miata is super responsive, which is a good and a bad thing. You know, you get into a groove, which that also depends on your alignment, but you get into a groove in the road, and this Miata likes to go with the groove. It likes to move with it. So that is one downfall. But it's, again, very, you know, responsive. It doesn't take long for it to react to you turning, it to react to the gas pedal being pushed, the brakes. It's almost instant. Not to mention the key, you know, the key fob where the key actually is hidden and it pops back up, makes it feel extra special. Like it's I don't know, you're getting ready to fly like a jet or something, and you gotta like whip out the key really quick, or you know, someone comes in the parking lot and threatening you and stuff. Watch out, I'm gonna stab you. Stab, stab, stab. Stab, stab. The cool thing about the Miata too is the startup. It just feels like, you know, you're about to take off. It just sounds so good. vantage point of, like, you know, your viewing point, whatever you want to call it, in a Miata is very small. It's tiny. So I don't love that. It's bigger than a lot of people think. I mean, the Miata can just take a lot. I actually use this specific NC to go and get lunch for everybody every day. It does the trick. Again, the viewing points on a Miata, little, very hard to see. I mean, the good thing about this too is I've actually never stalled this Miata. It's very hard to stall. It's not impossible. Brandon does it all the time. But I haven't ever had any issues. And it just feels like butter, you know, when it shifts. It almost feels like you're in an automatic, except for you going through the motion of shifting through the gears. But it's so smooth the way that, you know, they built this transmission. They built it to last. And to be smooth while it does last. It is very easy to speed in this car. I mean, in any car really, but for me it's easy to accidentally speed in this because I just don't realize how fast I'm going. I will say one thing I do hate on the speedometer is the increments they use. It's just a personal thing, it's a personal opinion. I hate that the increments are, you know, by 20, and they are 2.5 miles for the little tiny marker, so it goes 2.5, 5, 7.5, and then obviously the next major speed. I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't know why. I just could care less for that. Going over the railroad, again, this side is a lot bumpier, so we'll see if it actually affects me. It felt the same as the other side. I mean, I felt my body go up just a tiny bit. Again, nowhere near the headliner or anything, or the top, nowhere near it. And again, you can't beat that cruise control. I mean, set it and forget it, and you're set. And it's instant. I've been in, you know, like a Toyota 4Runner. You've got this 07 4Runner that you hit cruise control, and it takes like 5 to 10 seconds for it to actually like, you know, you're sitting there, you're losing speed, and all of a sudden cruise control pops in, and it's like, oh, okay, now we're going. Where the Miata, you get up to the speed you want to, you set it, forget it. It literally is just instant. No hesitation, so Mazda's really good with the cruise control. I just don't like being so close to everything, and yes, I'm short, and I'm small, so you would think I would like a smaller interior car, such as the Miata or an S2000. I don't like being this close to the windshield and having to, you know, physically look back and forth so I can see my entire view of the windshield. Where in my wagon, even though I'm that close, you know, the windshield's huge, that also helps, but it's just, you can see everything, the entire landscape where you're driving. The Miata, you're just so focused on this one spot, and it's right there. I personally could care less for the NCs. I am NA all the way. I do not like anything else besides the NA Miatas, specifically because of the pop-ups. Horns, very reactive too. It's just, it's like you're driving a boat, and I mean that visually, you know. Obviously, as you're feeling it, it doesn't drive like a, you know, Mazda B2500. You're not sailing the Tucson Ocean. It's the look of it, the ginormity of it. Oh, there's that body roll, you can feel it. I'm not sure if you guys can tell from the inside, but you can feel, you know, as you're driving it, that body roll, it just, you know. You're kind of just like on a whim. Hopefully it stays together. Hopefully your chassis and your body don't detach. Overall, the general driving of a NC Miata, all I can explain it is as smooth butter. It drives very smoothly. It's reactive to the driver. You know, the turns, the everything. The shift knob's great. Just Mazda sat down and took their time designing, you know, the NC Miata. Just not the outside, just the drivability part. But overall, thumbs up for drivability on the Miata. I really don't have very many complaints. Overall review of the 2006 Mazda Miata. It does pass in my book, and I know I'm a little bit biased. I personally do not care for the NC. I could have gone, you know, my entire life without driving an NC. Would have been perfectly fine. I think they were trying to go for more of a daily driver car compared to their previous models, the NV, the NA. Those are more to me, race cars. This is more of a trying to hit the general population and making a comfortable, drivable, but fun car. It's great, it's comfortable, you know, it's got performance behind it, it's got great intentions, but they could have executed that plan a little bit better. You know, maybe not make it look like a wide body kit, get rid of the weird nose thing going on, make it look aggressive, make it look mean, change it a little bit more. In my mind, they just enlarged the Miata, made it a little bit more girthy, have a little bit bigger of a body to it. You know, even the front end, you can't tell if it's smiling anymore, it's just there. If you're that type of consumer where all you care about is daily driving, this is the perfect vehicle for you. If you're the type of consumer like I am, where sure, daily driving is needed, but I would like a car that's a little bit more tailored for, you know, the racetrack, it's a fun weekend car as well as a daily driver, I personally wouldn't buy this car. I could care less for the NC model. Just doesn't hit it for me. Either way, it's a great car to drive, it's well worth your money to purchase if you're looking for a daily. That's all. So, thank you guys for watching this review. If you're looking for a boat, buy an NC Miata. I'll see you next time. Bye!